those that so-called call yourselves your allies will sit at the table with you and cut your throat. This is exactly what has been going on. So now the nation's leaders turning their backs on the U.S., which we know was Edom. Even President Macron of France now has issued a condemnation saying nothing can justify targeting civilians. So now the voice internationally is now speaking one voice. And the French foreign minister said that international humanitarian law is binding on all and must enable the protection of civilian populations. He also went on to say that humanitarian access to the Gaza Strip must be opened up without delay. We already know that Israeli had prevented war and supplies from reaching Gaza previously. On another note, family, what we are actually facing now, again, is what has been written in all of the Holy Scriptures. And the plan of the globalist criminals, call them the Nazis or the Khazarian Mafia, you can call them many different names. But these plans written by them were written years ago. They've always had a very long, drawn-out timeline for which to work within. So what we're seeing now in Palestine is these Luciferian, Nazi criminals, whatever you want to call them, seeking to avoid arrest and war crimes. So when we look back at the big picture, we see everything that is going on is what has been written. This is actually the end of the 1,000-year reign of the satanic cult to enslave humanity. It's about the liberation of mankind, the true Hebrew Israelites, from thousands of years of Babylonian slavery. Now, something interesting is the Israelis use the Star of David on their flag. And it's written in Acts 7:43 and Amos 5:26 that is actually the star of the sacrificial cult of Molech and Satan. This was found out just in the last few years. There were Torah scrolls actually found in Syria that were about 2,000 years old. They were taken out of a synagogue Satan temple in Syria. They had all kinds of satanic symbolism on it. They discovered a picture of a ram's head inside of a pentagram. They even found more of these in 2018 that were featuring satanic symbolism such as Baphomet, the triangle with the all-seeing eye, blood libel, which is actually just the use of children's blood in rituals, serpents, the ball, hand signs, owls, and many other things. One interesting thing of note is that the Rockefeller family are actually descendants of those so-called Syrian Jews. Of course, we know that the Jews are the Nazis and the Nazis are the Jews. But now as this information is now coming out, we already know that the Rockefellers themselves took over the medical associations back in the early 19th century. And so these pandemics, vaccine crimes, even the planned war that's going on in Palestine right now, were planned a long time ago. A quote from Albert Pike. Many of you are probably very familiar with his name. He wrote this before World War I happened. And in it he said the Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, those of the Arabic world, and political Zionism, which is simply Israeli, mutually destroy each other. He went on to say, we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm. Then everywhere the citizens will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer. But we already know that Yahushua has exposed all of this, those working with him, continuing to carry that truth to the four corners of the world. And now the people of the planet are waking up to that truth. They already know that the U.S. truly does not exist. Israeli does not exist. And that what we're seeing now, family, is simply exposure of a Nazi system that has been set up to control the entire planet. also know the truth that there are no such things as Jews, that they were nothing more than jewelers, that they had a lot of money, they controlled the monetary system, and therefore ultimately controlled the planet. It even tells us in what's been written in the scriptures that those Jews are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. So now this truth has all been exposed, family. That system has been taken down. And what we're seeing at this moment is simply the collapse of that old system, commonly called Babylonian or the New World Order, whatever you want to call it. But now the nations have united together with the Universal World Court, with YAHALLAH and Yahushua, coming together in one mind, one heart, and one spirit to make sure that every vestige of that old Babylonian system is totally destroyed. With that, I'd like to go ahead and yield the call to Dr. Hindu I.L. Henderson, the ad hoc Chief Justice of the Universal World Court. He is Yahushua Mashiach, the Son of Man, the Son of God. Rise and shine, sir.
Rise and shine, how do you hear me?
Very clearly, sir.
I want to at least be able to do a few things this Rise and Shine day by saying, welcome to the call, Rise and Shine. This is the call in which has been designated, and it goes out, not only has been designated, but it's been dedicated to all of the nations of the planet. We do know that there's 198 nations, and we are a family with those nations. That's the reason we can commonly and always politely say, we are the World Global Network, Reset, Restoration Network family. Again, yes, we are 198 sovereign nations. These sovereign nations makes up of 198 nations, 7 billion plus people on this planet that has come together in recognition, recognizing the fact that we are the people of this planet that's to install what will be known as the peace for every person, every mankind that's on this planet. We must work together. We don't get a choice. Once it has been said in the past that if man does not put an end to war, war will put an end to man. And we're talking to all mankind. Right now, we have such a rebellious world that every time we use the statement man or use the word man, everybody for some strange reason believes that we have to say woman, we have to say transsexual, we have to say the gays, we have to say lesbian. Everybody believes that. Everyone has to come with a designated word for every would-be being on this planet. And there's only two beings on this planet that are of the human nature. That is woman and man. There are no others. Everyone else is just a remedition of something in which has been made up in the mind of man, and mostly evil men. And we must admit to this. We must stop finding ways to come up with excuses that we can rebel against the only true God of the universe, YAHALLAH. Now, the reason I'm saying that, because I hear a few things that today, United Nations, this is your call, welcome to the call. I do want to make sure that I clear up that there be no misunderstanding or there be no miscommunications, or even we do not want to provide you with any misleading information. So I want you to understand that as even our host is saying about the wars, and she mentioned the wars between Hamas and the war against Israel, or between the two of them. This is not a war between Hamas. This is not a war between some so-called would-be Israel. It's not a war between those two. This war has been simply put together, and it is against every person on this planet. Every being on this planet is fighting that war, either directly or indirectly. We don't know where we got to stop or where do we start. By saying to the people again, stop it. We're trying to find some division or some separation. There is none. There's no division, no separation between anything that's going on this planet except good and bad, right or wrong, evil versus good. There's no other separation. There's no other division. So all of this about a war between Hamas and Israel and Ukraine and Russia, those wars are levied against mankind. Mankind being of righteous or unrighteous. That's the war that we're going through. That's the fights that are going on right now. That's the protests that are going on right now. It's either the good versus the bad, the evil versus the good, the righteous versus the unrighteous, but there is no other division or separation other than that. And right now, fighting all of the wars in which are going on, it's good versus evil. We have to face it. And as we constantly remind everyone of this fight, and why it's so important for you to either be a part of it or not to be a part of it, it's it's a point where everyone has to start focusing on it. You're either going to accept or you're going to reject. There's not going to be any in-between where some individual might be able to say, well, I'll just sit here and I'll just cry about it. That's not a position that you will be able to take on. You're either going to accept it or you're going to reject it, based upon truth or a lie. based upon life or death. You're going to do one or the other. You're going to accept or reject one or the other. Now, we're clearing it up that we're not just looking at a war going on between some would-be nations that we call Russia and Ukraine or Israel versus Hamas. That's not the war that we fight. We're fighting against good versus evil. And you have to understand that, yes, there are good people in Hamas or in the land of the Palestinians or the Palestinians. There's good people there. There's people that does not have the mind to put on a black would-be outfit and go out at night destroying and killing people. Again, we also have that on the other side too. Israel. There's not anyone that's in Israel or everyone in Israel that's not getting up every night, putting on a black outfit to go out to be destructive or disruptive. That's not what's happening. There are those on both sides that are doing the exact same thing. They're going out to disrupt, to interrupt, and to destroy. And most of them are working together. They're not working against each other. And this is where everyone, as I have said, must come to realization and reality based upon the truth. Right now, you have those that are sitting in the room that are classified to be Israelis, those that are classified to be Hamas, those that are classified to be jihad, those that are classified to be Islamic, and all of them are working together for peace, not for war. At the same time, you got those of that exact same thing that I've spoken of, and all of them are for nothing more than war. They want the war to happen because that's the way they believe they're going to be able to take over the goodness of the world and destroy it. So you got people on both sides fighting. Right now, the war is going on in Israel between Hamas, extremists, whatever you want to call them. The United States of America has everything to do with it, just like everybody else does. They have, in the past, made decisions for that land that would not have brought that land to a war had they not made those decisions. Let's just face it. William Jefferson Clinton, during his time in office, sat down with Arafat and Ariel Sharon, and they made decisions there about a two-state would-be nation, and no one never decided if they were going to do it or not. William Jefferson Clinton went out of the White House, and then George W. Bush Jr., as they call him, came in, and he did the exact same thing. After he went out, one by the name of Barack Obama came in, and he did the exact same thing in the United Nations. One came in after him, Donald Trump, he did the exact same thing. And Joe Biden has done worse of trying to bring anybody to peace since the gathering of any of those administrations to this time. He has been worse. Every last one of those administrations of those presidents that I just named had what we can believe to be a poor, would-be so-called foreign affairs. None of them understood foreign affairs because they did not know how to conduct domestic affairs right there at home. They couldn't even fix their own home problem. No one was looking to any fact of a matter that they were going to be able to deal with foreign matters because they couldn't deal with domestic matters right at home. And anyone who expected this would have been totally out of their mind, not recognized that neither one of those men that they put in the White House was intelligent enough to have any would-be so-called personal, and we're just being straightforward, personal matters about themselves where they would have been conducting a life of nothing more than following the righteous world or following the righteous people or following the righteous plan. I'm not going to go through their personal would-be so-called history, but everyone knows it already. Everyone knows what William Jefferson Clinton was about, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Donald Trump. Everybody knew these men's personal lifestyle. No one questioned them. They just placed them in their positions of leadership. And they should have recognized that whatever their personal lifestyle was like, so was their leadership going to be exactly the same. Now, I'm not even accusing America of starting wars, but you have to understand they're part of every war that's going on, directly and indirectly, because they are the ones that have provided weapons to both sides, to all sides. American weaponry has been sold on this planet to every nation on the planet, every nation. Not one nation that does not have a piece of equipment of what would be classified as a weapon that was not sold by the United States of America, and vice versa. You have to understand that Russia has sold weapons to every nation on the planet. China has sold weapons to every nation on the planet. Every nation on the planet has each other's weapons. That's why they know it's a weapon. Everyone has a rush to believe that there's been some spying going on when you don't need spying going on when spies are on both sides. Traitors are on both sides. You have heard me over the course of period now of at least 30 plus years telling you that your traitors are my traitors, your spies are my spies. Yeah, you heard me say that. So you have to understand the reason I'm making that statement is I'm saying that not for myself, but for those of you that classify to be those nations of this planet. Your traitors are their traitors. Your spies are their spies. Because all of them are working together. Anytime you find someone speaking about a finance system or currency system, you find people who want to benefit from it in a way where they will sell their mothers, they will sell their fathers, they will sell their children, and even a lot of them will sell their own bodies just for these currency, just for the money, if we might be clear. And that's what's been happening. United Nations, I need you to understand that, as I have said, yes, things are going to get worse. They're not going to get better. I don't care who's sitting down for peace right now. As the letter of Obadiah has already been told, it has already been said, that what they are doing is nothing more than working to destroy the planet. And everyone is now preparing themselves to bring down Babylon. And Babylon, irregardless of what some commentary, and especially those so-called would-be gospel preachers from the United States of America has been preaching about Persia and all these other nations they want to claim to be that nation that's going to fall, they are a lie. And they know they're lying because they already know the true word of what they're reading based upon, they don't have to look for an interpretation. All of those documents already have been, for many of years now, has been stored at what is known as the library of Vatican City. Vatican has all of the answers because the Bible codes, they have already been found to a point where everyone they have decoded these codes. Even though they were encoded to a manner where everybody believed they was never going to be decoded. They have already been decoded. Everyone knows all of the codes that were in the Bible. Everyone knows the secret of what those codes were saying. Everyone already knows who that real nation and that city that's going to fall by thousands of people. And I'm saying again to the United States of America, you are that nation. And that city is Washington, D.C. It's going to fall by the thousands. A lot of people, I know, perhaps maybe you want to attack me now because I'm giving you facts. But the fact must remain that if you do not heed my word, not only will you lose thousands, but you're looking at 2 times those thousands that you will lose. Why are you not listening to me? So let me clear something up because I know everyone has been, I think, consistently texting me and writing me and leaving me messages, asking me how can I be classified as the Son of Man and the Son of God. Let me help you out because I am the Son of Man and the Son of God in the flesh. You may have a would-be so-called spiritual, ghostly God and Son of God and Son of Man. You may have a nice description of a would-be so-called spiritual God or Son of God or Son of Man. You might have a good grasp on that. Spiritually, a ghostly one, but I am the one that's in the flesh and you will not get another one. I guarantee that to you. I'm in the flesh. The one you have in your mind, your heart, or whatever you want to believe it's in, is spiritual. It's a ghostly one. That one can do nothing for you. That one cannot even warn you of the things that's about to come. I am the only one that can do that, and I'm doing that. You can either accept it or you can reject it, but you will not get another. I'm it. Maybe I'm not as large as you want me to be. Maybe I'm not as tall as you want me to be. Maybe I'm not as handsome as you want me to be. Maybe I'm not the right nationality or the color or the shape you want me to be, but I'm it. You won't get another. Trust me. And you can go ahead and call and pray to God. Oh, we didn't want that one as your son. We didn't want that one as your would-be so-called Son of Man. We didn't want that one. Let me help you out. He's not listening to you because he's only listening to one. And I can say this without being blaspheming, that he's only listening to me. Not the so-called Pope Francis. He's not listening to any of the jackleg so-called gospel ministers around the world. He's not listening to any of them. He's not listening to your so-called would-be powerful leaders. I don't care if they're from Argentina all the way to Zimbabwe. He's not listening to them. He's listening to one. His anointed. His appointed. And yet, I am not in no fear to say, I am it. There is not another. Grossly, as it has been for the world, things are going to get worse. You're only going through the wars right now, people. You haven't even hit the battle yet. The battle of Armageddon is at our front door. It will not stop at our front door. It is going to come through our front door. It will go to our back door. It will lead to every window that we have, no matter how many stories of the buildings that we live in. 57, 157. It doesn't matter how many stories you have. The battle of Armageddon is going to reach every door, every window, every place that you could ever imagine. It's going to reach it. I don't care if you build yourself an underground shelter. It's going to come get you. I don't care if you build yourself a steel vault. It's going to come and get you. You can build yourself a bulletproof plant, a bulletproof house, a bulletproof world. It is going to come and get you. Yes, the battle of Armageddon is going to come and get you. And all those things that you build is going to tear it down in a matter of a blink of an eye. I'm just giving you the facts. I don't think that I need to be putting in all of these hours with you when you are still going to be just as rebellious as you have been up to this with the so-called 23rd millennium. 23 millenniums now. And you have still been just as rebellious as your fathers were in the first millennium. As your fathers were in the second and the third millennium. You have been just as rebellious as they have in your 23rd millennium. You are now getting ready to go into your 24th millennium. I told you what your 23rd millennium was going to be like many, many moons ago. I told you that you was going to be nothing more than forced to deal with hell. That hell it's not going to end yet. Will it end in your 24th millennium? I will tell you it will not. It's going to even be greater. Because then you're going to be forced to deal with those millennium in what we know it to be in a covenant of twos. Those twos will be 2 times 2. You will be dealing with it in a fourth of a covenant, in which you will not get out of until everyone on the planet has either been eliminated or recreated. That's a fact. United Nations, as we begin to watch the overthrow of the planet based upon good versus evil, we will not get out of this. Every nation will come against that nation known as Babylon. They don't get a choice. It's the written prophecy. That nation, again, is the United States of America. It is not Persia. It is not Russia. It is not Lebanon. It is not Iraq. It is not Iran. It is not China. It's not Japan. But it is the United States of America. It is known as Babylon. It built itself to be Babylon. And it will come down, just as Babylon was written in the prophecy to come down. And it will suffer great losses. Because it's inside the book, it tells them they will suffer great losses. It tells them that they're going to be going through great destruction. It tells them that there will be starving in the land. It tells them there will be those that will be thrown from their houses and thrown from their would-be so-called places of occupation and their would-be holy, would-be so-called temples. It tells them they're going to be destroyed and thrown out of those places. And they're going to be praying and crying to the only God of the universe and his son to come and save them. And I would tell them, their cries will no longer be heard in the street. And I need them to understand, their cries will not be heard by God. And they will suffer the consequences in which they have, up to this point, rejected. Every knee will bow. Every tongue will confess that he is who he say he is, and there is no other. I must admit that true documentation has put you in a position where there is no turning around. There's no reversing now. There is no going underneath it or around it. I can assure you that because of your attempt to go above it, you have put yourself in a position where now you will suffer the consequences of a world gone bad. And until that world comes to an end through the battle of Armageddon, I say, let the nations fight on until victory is won. However they deem victory to be. I got work to do. I know you would love for me to sit around and talk and explain to you something that you're going to reject anyway, but I'm not going to keep you and attempt to convince you. That's up to you. Again, I looked outside my window. It's day already. Man must work while it's still day, for night coming, no man can work. My work must go on. As for you, get your rest. You're in for a long, long ride. Watch the animals. They will tell you exactly what to expect. Many of them are climbing to get out of the water so they can die at least at a peaceful place. Many of them will be coming from the sky. They will be dying on the ground looking for a peaceful place. I need you to remember that I've already told you. Man in these times will be begging. He will be praying. He will be searching. He will be asking. He will be pleading for death. And death will not come until it gets ready.